In a once affluent section in the corner of an American city sits an old historic cemetery. Years ago, this privately owned beautiful cemetery was the burial place of many families, mostly the wealthy and educated. Like many city centers across the nation, this part of town, and with it the old cemetery, had now become a neglected and forgotten part of the city landscape. Over the years, as the neighborhood surrounding it changed from affluent to working class, and now to low income, sadly, the cemetery had become a sort of dumping ground for both natural debris, trash, and rubbish. This sacred place was once regularly visited by families and blessed for the repose of souls, had now become unrecognizable and unsafe. In recent years, family members no longer visited their deceased loved ones at the burial place because in fact the family plots had become so overrun with waste, broken tree limbs, overgrown grass, and city street trash, they were embarrassed to visit the place. Some grave markers were no longer even visible, as they now had become completely swallowed by nature reclaiming its course. Most shockingly of all was the now infamous neglect of the Mausoleum, which happens to be located within the walls of the decrepit old cemetery.
What's up, y'all? Fran here from Abandoned Central. And right now, I'm in an abandoned mausoleum. I'm actually exploring this by myself. It's a pretty high climb into the window, but I was able to get in. I've been wanting this spot for a long time. It's pretty locked up, but I was able to get in here. So this place is really, really decayed, as you can tell. So a few years ago, this place was really popular. Then they put a big fence around the front of it, and that was the only way in through that front door. And now you don't really see people doing it anymore. And this place is just wrecked. I mean, it's really sad to see a mausoleum like this. I mean, you can see that's a casket back there. So they had like the tombstone or the plaque with your name on it. And then there was a big piece of granite. And then there was bricks behind it. And then you have the casket behind that. So there's still caskets in all of these for the most part. And then ones like that, they remove the caskets. So here's another casket. So you can see how rusted out these caskets are. That's insane. It's really sad to see people's headstones just laying on the ground like this after their loved ones spent a lot of money to put them in this mausoleum.
In 1926, the doors of a newly constructed gorgeous mausoleum opened for business. This mausoleum was a 3-story stone building design with compartment-style walls in which to safely hold bodies and caskets. Although interment records for the mausoleum no longer exist, it is estimated that over 500 bodies were placed within this structure, which was to serve as their final resting place for generations to come.
There's like a casket laying on the floor right there. Glad there's no one in it. So it's kind of the same layout over here. There's a little casket holder. See the cemetery out there? The remains in this casket were removed and cremated in accordance with RI Law 10/21/2015. So that's why there's no body in there.
When the original owner died in 1938, care of the mausoleum was inherited to his two daughters. Tragically, one of the daughters died in 2000 and the other passed away just 2 years later in 2002. Unfortunately, and for some strange and unknown reason, no will or provisions had been made for the future care of the mausoleum or the human remains inside. In 2005, the mausoleum was finally condemned and closed by the city municipality for being dangerously unsafe. The historic structure was then locked up, fenced off, and plastered with no trespassing signs.
You can see like all the moss, the green moss starting to grow. Let's go take a look upstairs real fast. I'm gonna try and be quick in here because I'm trying to get to a couple more spots today. I went and I opened a church this morning. Oh, I went and I opened a church last night. Got the door open, propped it open. Then we went back this morning to shoot it at literally 6:30 in the morning. And there's drug dealers trapping right in the same alley that the door was in. So me and Bob get into the church, and all of a sudden the drug dealer comes in the church, tells us to leave, says that we're messing up his drug deals because we're gonna bring the cops to the building. So he came in the church and kicked us out. There's Bob outside. I just seen him walk by. He's shooting the cemetery. You can see the ceiling is collapsing. Oh wow, here's some caskets. These are some cool photos. You got all these knickknacks. Fake flowers. Then you got another casket here. Look how torn up the inside of the casket is. Then you have a wooden one right here. You gotta be careful because there's cars right outside the window. So here's a nice wooden one. There's obviously no body in there either. Then you got a couple more caskets in here. One, two, three. This was Jacob's. So this is probably a family. The last name Jacob. And there's several of their family members that were inside this one room. And this is the same thing. So there's probably 3 people back behind those granite slabs that used to be also right here. But that's all the granite right there. So maybe once the place became abandoned, the family probably wanted their loved ones removed and cremated. I'd imagine that's what happened. That's why all these caskets are empty. I could be wrong, but that's my guess.
Over the past 18 years, the elements of time have not been kind and have taken its toll on the abandoned building. The roof and walls are now crumbling in. Rain and snow have entered just as easily as those who have ventured past the no trespassing signs and locks to squat, vandalize, and in some cases even steal from the dead. This has obviously caused outrage amongst the loved ones and the people of the local community, but it seems that their calls for action have yielded few efforts. One thing does remain very clear. Eventually, the mausoleum will have to be demolished. Yet, despite years of legal discussions and ideas, there is still no logical solution to dealing with the present tragedy and averting one even worse in the near future.
There's an urn. (1896 to 1942). Let's see what else is back here.
Different estimates have been placed on the cost of removing bodies. Because the building is contaminated with asbestos and mold and still contains hazardous human remains, removal of any of the bodies necessitates professional hazmat intervention. Some estimates state that the cost of removing one body is about $6,000, while others say the cost to remove all the bodies would certainly surpass $3 million. While a few of the families have removed their loved ones already, the emotional trauma of relocating a deceased relative, along with having to finance a second burial, is not something many are able to do. And for this reason, there are many of the bodies still left inside the mausoleum. Heartbreakingly, there seems to be no family to come forth to claim the ones that are left. And perhaps the saddest part to this story is that there are still over 500 stories contained within the crumbling walls of the aging old mausoleum. Stories of veterans, nurses, police officers, successful businessmen, and immigrants who came to America seeking a better way of life. And none of those deaths should be forgotten about or their fate remain unknown.
So, this has been all cleaned out. It's like an old cash register, maybe. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Looks like an urn, maybe. As you can see, this is all cleaned out up here. All the caskets have been removed. That looks like it's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go back downstairs. Shoot some photos real fast.
This cemetery is so wild. The cemetery is abandoned and highly neglected. People still do come and put flowers and stuff on their loved ones' graves, but there's nobody really maintaining this place. So I think all the people just kind of take care of their own family members' plots and stuff. So the cemetery is basically vacant. It's so interesting because you wouldn't think this would ever happen. But look at this. I mean, the weeds around them. Those are all weeds. Like, you don't see this kind of stuff. Look at that. It's just so sad. Look at, there's 1997. It's just covered in weeds and grass, moss and stuff. This one you can hardly even read it anymore. Same with this one. It's just wild to me to see something like this in America. It's unfortunate. That is so wild. This one's knocked over. It's got a weed growing up between the tombstone and the base. Look at that. Big old weed tree growing up between these two. Look how tall that thing is. This is also in the middle of a major US city, which is even more baffling because it's not like this is out in the country where nobody's around. You can see the bus over there and the traffic driving by, and it's just crazy that this exists like this here. Blows my mind. This is an old gravestone here. All knocked over. Jeez. That one down there is all knocked over. Looks like somebody got buried here and then they never even put a marker down or anything. Just a cross. What the hell? Oh, look at this one. 1902. It's really interesting to document this stuff. Look at this one too. Oh, do we see this one? Look at that. Just getting swallowed by the tree. My God, I'd be so mad if that was my family member. That's too bad. Abandoned building over there too, in the cemetery. Some maintenance building. More trash bags thrown around right in people's graves. Look at this. Somebody's grave here with garbage all around it. These ones are really interesting over here. They're super old, super overgrown. You can't even see this thing. It's mind-blowing. Yeah. There's a grave actually under here. Look at this. Somebody's grave right there. Paper plate all on it. It's swallowed again by this monster weed tree. These ones are really interesting too. Look at that. These graves are completely hidden within the weeds. There's even one under here. A couple of them. I don't know if you can really see it that good, but there's one there, and there's one right there. And there's more over here. Another one there. Jeez. See how close we are to the city? Look at that. Busy city, major U.S. city, with an abandoned cemetery and mausoleum. Look at those. I mean, I could go on and on and on with these graves. It's like tragedy. Jesus. It's like poison ivy too, so I gotta be careful. And I'm sure ticks. Wow, these are covered in vines. Jeez. Completely covered. Look at that. Can't even see the backside of it. You can make out some words there. Born August 17th. Look at those back there in the thicket. It's crazy, sticking up through the weeds. Can barely even see them. As of 2023, there seems to be some much needed positive news on the horizon for the once memorable and celebrated cemetery and mausoleum. Many local volunteers have gotten together and are now involved in cleaning up the cemetery, gravestones, and also help keeping an eye on the now vulnerable mausoleum to make sure it stays locked up and protected. As there have been several unsuccessful attempts to help bring this place back to its former glory, we can only hope that this time will be different. We also hope that one day the remaining loved ones can be properly returned to their families so that they continue to visit them for generations to come. And that's going to wrap it up for the Abandoned Mausoleum video. We know that this was an emotional experience for us, so we sure hope that you enjoyed this video as sad as it is. For more photographs of the cemetery and the mausoleum and our other locations, check out the website at abandonedcentral.com. And please subscribe to Abandoned Central on YouTube so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And one more thing, if you want to help support us in creating these videos, please donate by clicking the Super Thanks link next to the download icon. Thank you for all the continued support.